Tonight, we float through warm, moonlit water, a bayou that never quite was. A place where someone once imagined hippos, yes, hippos, munching weeds and feeding hungry families. Close your eyes, breathe in. This is the nearly true story of America's almost hippos, and the very true story of the hippos that found a home far away in Colombia. You're listening to Pillow Page, cozy history told softly. If your eyes grow heavy, let them. You won't miss anything your dreams can't finish. We'll move slowly, step by step, like a lantern bobbing down a quiet river. In and out. Picture Louisiana around 1910. Cypress knees poke through still water like old knuckles. Spanish moss sways like a thought you couldn't quite catch. In the early 20th century, the United States is booming, growing, always hungry, and now suddenly, meat feels scarcer, pricier. At the same time, an invasive plant, water hyacinth, spreads across southern waterways in thick mats, choking boats, fish, and patience. Local papers grumble. Fishermen complain. Houseboats drift, hemmed in by the green. Into this tangle steps a congressman from Louisiana, Robert F. Broussard, who decides to solve the problem with one enormous, unexpected animal. What if we brought hippopotamuses to the bayous? They love water. They eat staggering amounts of vegetation. And, he insists, hippo meat, rebranded as lake cow bacon, could be delicious, abundant, and American enough if you say it with a straight face. People blinked, some laughed, but some leaned forward. Let's linger a moment on the water hyacinth, because it set the table for this idea. Its flowers are lovely, feathery purple, a dab of gold at the throat, but beauty can be stubborn. The plant mats over canals like a quilt left out in the rain, heavy and clinging. Steamboats slow, shallows vanish. Officials hunt for answers. Mechanical harvesters, chemicals, even prayer. Nothing sticks. And then a proposal wafts up the Mississippi like a rumor. Hippos could eat the mess into memory. Broussard gathers a cast of characters colorful enough for a dime novel. There's Frederick Russell Burnham, the famed scout, desert tough, head tilted against the sun, who believed Americans could adopt almost anything. And then there's Fritz Duquesne, a man of many masks, a rival in the spirit to Burnham. Both adventurers with biographies that read like windblown newspapers. They testify, they pitch, they paint a picture. Healthy red meat, sauntering through the bayous on four legs, turning nuisance hyacinth into dinners and prosperity. Close your eyes and imagine a morning in this almost America. Dew hangs on hyacinth. A fisherman in a narrow pirogue floats along a cleared channel, because a herd of hippos has eaten last night's groat to wet nubbins. Along the bank, a butcher's shop, chalkboard reads, lake cow bacon, 15 cents per pound. Children tug at their mother's sleeves. Do they roar? Hippos, of course, do not roar. They chuckle, grunt, bellow, if they approve or disagree. They stay close to water in the day, graze at night, and wag stubby ears like old radios picking up a far station. In the glow of imagination, everything about the plan feels tidy. A perfect circle, Weed becomes meat, problem becomes solution, hunger becomes supper. But ideas must pass through the narrow gate of reality. Legislators asked hard questions. How many hippos? Who pays? Will they behave? Could they stay? Can a nation accustomed to beef and pork turn to quote-unquote lake cow? What happens when a half-ton of muscle and jaw meets a fisherman's stuff at dusk? Behind the scenes, ranchers and stockmen bristle at substitutes. Meat packers, railroad interests, and plain inertia all have a say. The plan, once bright, now dims. It never becomes a law. The bayous remain hyacinth choked, yes, but hippo free. And America, with this wandering appetite, ended up looking elsewhere. Sometimes the past is a museum of doors that almost opened. Push gently on the hippo door, and you can feel warm, damp air from a world where the South stocks its waterways with a new animal, where cookbooks carry recipes for hippo stew, where schoolchildren draw broad-mouthed silhouettes beside crispest rocks. But we did not walk through that door. The bayou settles back, the water hushes, the idea becomes a footnote with a very large grin. Before we drift thousands of miles to Colombia, let's rest with the animal itself. Hippopotamus amphibius, enormous, semi-aquatic, skin like wet slate, heart beating under 2,000 pounds of patience. Their eyes, ears, and nostrils ride high on the skull like 3 periscopes breaking the surface at once. They can hold their breath for minutes, walking along river bottoms as if gravity were a rumor. They are not gentle cows that happen to be like lakes. They are hippos, territorial, unpredictable, and probably better left respected. And yet, they're also strangely serene to watch. A family clusters in a backwater, the old bull like a small island, calves bobbing nearly like gray stones that learn to smile. At dusk, they step ashore to graze, their bellies brushing tall grass, their tracks running loops and arcs in the mud. A human might gaze at a hippo and see potential. Meat, leather, control over plants. A hippo sees a river, a coolness, a route to safety, a place to float between bursts of gravity. It is a reminder. Animals are not solutions we install. They are lives we invite into our problems. If you listen closely, the water says the same. And now, we cross the Caribbean to the Magdalena River of Colombia. It's later in the century. There is a sprawling private estate, a menagerie, a collection of exotic animals kept for spectacle and pleasure. Among them, hippopotamuses. Then history turns a page. The estate empties, the fences stand for a while, then sag. Gates swing. Hippos, built for water, find water. They stroll down to the river the way a story finds its ending. And once in the river, they do what hippos do best. They live. A few become more than a few. Calves arrive, pinkish, curious, ears flicking, shining in the sun. Locals see shapes in the dawn mist and call to each other. At first it's a novelty. Hippos? Here? But novelty is a fast-growing thing. Years pass, the rivers carry them further. People snap photos from bridges. Fishermen pass quietly or is lifted from the water. The animals, unmoored from their origin, become simply present. Biologists track them, puzzled and intrigued. How will a non-native giant fit into this river's intricate braids? Some worry about fish and manatees, about banks turned into mud, about crops nibbled, startled cattle, surprised farmers. Others marvel at an animal thriving where no one predicted that it would. Towns whisper, headlines wake, and always the river. At night, hippos graze along the Magdalena's quiet little farms. At dawn, they sink back into brown, forgiving water, leaving hoofprints like moons pressed into clay. The world learns a new phrase, Colombia's hippos. With time, questions sharpen. Should they be left alone to become a permanent piece of this valley? Should they be moved, their numbers managed, their biology respected, but maybe restrained? Scientists debate ethics and logistics, cost and compassion. Community leaders weigh safety. People argue, hold meetings, create plans, revise them, and try again. Through it all, the animals remain indifferent to our debates. They want what hippos want, room and water and the thick sound of evening. If you stand very still, in imagination in the quiet of your room, you can hear the echo between Louisiana's almost hippos and Colombia's real ones. In one place, a grand plan that never left paper. In another, a grand escape that wrote itself onto the land. In Louisiana, people asked, could they live here? In Colombia, the hippos themselves replied, we can. Where one river kept its secrets, another invented new ones. Both stories braid together lessons about intention and accident. We humans love simple circles. Problems become solutions, but nature prefers spirals. We solve one thing, the spiral turns. We inherit consequences we didn't order, at a time we didn't expect. And sometimes we inherit wonder as well. In a different century, on a different bayou, maybe Broussard's plan wins by a handful of votes. Hippos arrive by steamship. Headlines cheer, ranchers grumble, chefs experiment. Children carry lunch pails with bright stickers that read, Lake Cow. In that timeline, we might be telling a completely different bedtime story. The one where hippos are as American as hush puppies, and winter holidays include a roast no one blinks at. But in our timeline, the hippos swam south, and a valley in Colombia became a living footprint to a bill that failed. Fate, it seems, has a fondness for irony. Louisiana's bayous never found their hippos. Colombia's river learned to live with them. Between those shores is a lesson shaped like a crescent moon. Every landscape has a story, and a story it tells no matter what you say. Tonight, we listen to both. Sleep well, traveler. The river knows the way. If this story carried you towards rest, you can find more in our Cozy History playlist. For now, let the water be your blanket. And so tomorrow night, another story from history.